Alrighty, so I just saw the movie The Gorge. I do still plan on doing a Captain America Brave New World video. I've just, I have been incredibly sick the last couple weeks thanks to, Oklahoma just having the worst cases of flu. So I'm just now kind of like feeling better. So is my wife because we both got sick. But at some point, hopefully, within this next week, I'll go watch it. But this movie also just came out like 2 days ago. Came out on Valentine's Day, called The Gorge, on Apple TV Plus. That's I'm not super familiar with that streaming service, but I was curious enough because I saw a clip on TikTok, so I was like, okay. I'll go over the movie, but I'll go into the spoilers after talking about the movie as a whole. So my assumption from the clip I saw on TikTok was that it's some kind of monster movie, and it's very interesting because this movie feels like roughly 3 episodes of a TV show packed into one, and each one seems tonally different from the other. And so the first scene starts you out, bam, it's, like a spy thriller, and you're like, oh, okay. And it's a very, very slow build movie for the first half, and that's what I mean when I say tonally it completely changes, in my opinion. So you basically get introduced to your 2 main characters. Sigourney Weaver is in the movie. It's so funny because I almost feel like she's in the movie as the same character she played in Chappie, just a little bit more aggressive. But it's roughly seems like it's supposed to be like modern day or maybe a couple years in the future. They're vague about where the setting is and when it is. Basically, there's this military person who has no attachments and is really good at his job but has horrible PTSD, and they're like, dude, you want to get recruited for a secret mission that we can't tell you about? So he signs up for it, and it's this elaborate you parachute out here and walk 30 miles whatever to the destination, and the one guy there will tell you what your mission is. And so you get introduced to Miles Teller's character Levi, and then you also get introduced to Anya Taylor-Joy's character Dasa, I believe, or Drasa. And so the whole thing is there's a huge gorge canyon, and there's the west side, which is they're like, not even the government knows, this is a secret project. And it's like the Western Allies have the Western Guard Tower, and then the Eastern countries handle the East Tower. And they're like, don't you dare talk to the other person. You're here for 1 year, and you get no phone, no movies, no nothing, just a handful of books. You're supposed to fend for yourself, get your own food, manage your own survival. They say there's enough weapons, but the defenses, if any of them break, you have to go down there and fix them. Meaning there's landmines in the gorge hanging from the tower. You're responsible, if any of those break, to go rappel down there and fix it, which is pretty crazy. But having the characters introduced, maybe it's because I've seen so many movies, but it did just feel so predictable, but well done still. Predictable in a sense that you introduce this woman and this man who are clearly both alone, blah blah blah, and then they start talking, putting up signs like, oh hey, what's your name? I was like, I know where this is going. And of course they're flirting with each other, and she's like, I wish you were here, and he's like, I'm so dedicated. Refits a RPG to be a grapple gun, and freaking rappels over there, and you're like, damn, dude. And so yeah, the first what feels like hour is a awkward love drama. There's one scene where you start seeing, because they're like, you gotta keep what's in the gorge out, and you briefly see, and at the moment when you see the creature, I was like, I can already predict what the twist and all the secret stuff is. And it sucks because just by seeing the creature, I was like, I've seen this before. I can already tell you probably what the twist is. I think it's pretty cool monster designs though, and the CGI is not too terrible. My wife was saying the CGI looked kind of bad, but I thought it was serviceable. Most of the scenes are obviously in like a more darker setting, or low visibility, so that the CGI can kind of not look so bad. But yeah, you get like the one big action scene during the first portion of their kind of like awkward romance, and then of course there's a middle part that's very, very monster action heavy, like full on almost like zombie movie action, which I didn't hate at all. It's just funny that I was like, I can sense this is gonna happen, and it did. Again, the creatures designs towards the middle of the movie, great, unique, and you see a lot of, I don't want to really spoil it, you see a lot of imagery that is pretty cool. It reminded me a lot of a certain video game reference get, heavily, and The Thing, and I just wish there was more of that portion of the movie, because I felt like it was showing me so much where I'm like, what the hell? They explain to you, what The Thing is, and you're like, God, that's so creepy. Like, I wish I could have seen more. And then that portion of the movie ends, and then towards the ending part of the movie, I feel like it just turns into like a Jason Bourne movie almost. And so it felt like three episodes where it's like romance, pure action, spy thriller. And I was like, this is interesting. I felt the movie could have definitely been shorter. It's like 2 hours and 20 minutes. You could have cut down a lot of the beginning romance stuff. Because once it kind of establishes like their thing, it just kind of, then it can get to the rest of the movie. And I was like, well, I think you could have shown passage of time a little quicker and established their relationship. It's funny seeing their relationship where, they're talking, but they're like so awkward, which is believable because, they're two PTSD military vets basically who, have no one. So, not bad. Like, if it felt like a movie I'd probably rewatch with friends or family. If it comes out on Blu-ray, I'd probably buy it. I hate how predictable it was and how long it was, but a lot of what I saw I liked, and I liked the idea of, guard post America, guard post Russia, and you don't talk to the other side, and you get the like one mounted turret, a couple of guns, and landmines to defend the wall. There is something that a character says earlier in the movie that I guess I didn't fully pay attention, so at the end I was like, oh, okay, that's what he meant. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's bad. Would I say go get Apple TV Plus to go see this? I don't know. I mean, the only benefit of that, I guess, is you could go see other shows or movies. Like I think Godzilla Legacy of Monsters or something is on there, so maybe. But yeah, again, because I think I've put on here, I do have Letterboxd and I do reviews on there. Go check out my reviews on Letterboxd. To keep it simple, out of 5 stars, I would give this a 4, because, and again, it's only getting a 4 because of that middle section where there's really, really cool visuals, and I liked the idea of the monsters and the look of the monsters. That raised it up for me from being above average, so it gets a 4. I think most people I know are probably going to enjoy this movie. But now that I've got that out of the way, I kind of want to go into spoilers. And so, bam, spoilers. If you don't want to hear spoilers, you've watched the rest of the video, just stop. But, so, yeah, Anya Taylor-Joy's character is basically an assassin, whereas Miles Teller's character is more of like an actual military service member. And you find out that their yearly rotation, once it's done, the company that actually supplies, like that's been guarding this gorge, kills the guard post people so that there's no way that it can get leaked. And they basically have radio jammers so that satellites can't see the gorge or anything. And they set up a whole thing that if the satellites go down, they have like, I mean, I wouldn't even say minutes, I'd say seconds before a nuke that has been placed in the gorge blows up and destroys the gorge, that, you know, other countries and interested parties can't come and get it. But yeah, the romance between Drasa and Levi is very awkward and very almost like movie cringe, because, you know, the gorge is like miles apart, and their guard tower, I mean, they're not able to hear each other. They could maybe hear a gunshot, but she's like chainsawing some wood or something, sawing some wood, and he's spying on her with his goggles, and she goes like, she stops and goes, I'm like, okay, that's a very cringe movie moment. But you know, they do the thing where they're talking to each other through like whiteboards, and yeah, he refits the RPG to be a grapple gun, goes over there, and of course they bang and, you know, have dinner. But then when he's trying to rappel back, the Hollow Men, as they're called, are attacking his side of the base, and a landmine goes off and destroys his zipline. So he falls down. And this is what I mean by we get to, like, this whole romance part ends, and then it just cuts to, like, hardcore, like, zombie movie, basically. And so he falls down there. She does not hesitate to parachute down there to save him. Immediately you're like, what the fuck? The trees look spooky, and he like cuts his rope because he's hanging on a tree, and then like a rib cage almost, or like rib cage, man, like that are supposed to look like teeth, come out of the ground to try to start eating him, basically, to like slowly pull him into the ground. It's really freaky. But she saves him. But then a bunch of the Hollow Men, they look like humanoid, like imagine a human made out of trees, are on horseback, and you're like, what the fuck? And they're, you know, like, they have tactics. So you're like, what the hell? Mind you, the moment Sigourney Weaver's character in the beginning asked Miles Teller's character, like, you got anyone who might know if you like disappear? And he's like, no. I was like, okay, I think I know where this is going, you know, because he takes over the guard post from another guy, and then we get to see the other guy trying to extract, you know, far away, and you see how they kill him. So it's like, okay, yeah, that was pretty predictable. But yeah, they're in the gorge, they're fighting, they fight, you know, they check the bodies, then they've realized that the bodies are a bunch of soldiers that disappeared in like the 1940s. And, you know, there's basically a whole town, and they're investigating this old spooky rundown town in the gorge. It's really good scene. And we get some, again, cool visuals where there's a bunch of little spiders, basically, but they were formed from the skulls of human beings. I thought that was pretty neat. There is a part where Drasa gets kidnapped by a Hollow Man, and he like ties her up, and it seems like they're setting up that they can, you know, speak or say something, but he doesn't. They just get into a fight and he dies. And I was like, damn, you know, it's not like I needed him to be like, why are you killing us? But I thought it would maybe be a scene, you know, where I mean, I know it sounds cliche, but it's like Doom Eternal, where the Doom Slayer says one word, which is no. I was hoping that they would say like one word where you're like, ooh, that's creepy. This part of the movie reminded me a lot of Annihilation, Dead Space, and The Thing. I say Dead Space because it reminded me so heavily of The Marker, which turns, like people into goo basically and reformats them into fucking monsters. And like the body horror element, because you start seeing like human beings fused with trees and bugs and walls and the floor, and you basically, of course, because they do a comic like, oh, there's a secret base here, what the fuck, and they find a film that's basically like, well, we were trying to create super soldiers during the war, and an earthquake hit and all of our bombs leaked, and so that's why there's a bunch of fog in the gorge, because it's just the bombs are still leaking, which it's a biomutagen that basically transforms the DNA of any living thing to anything. Like basically it's just fusing them together. So insects and humans were fused together, trees and humans were fused together. I mean, it's everything that could be fused together is fused together. And they're basically like, if you only expose yourself for a few hours, you're fine. It's when you're in the fog for days that you're gonna start transforming. So of course I felt like that was predictable, that we were gonna get I told my wife before we even got to that scene, I was like, let me guess, it's some kind of government cover up and they were experimenting on people and it failed. Kaboom, look at that, that's what it is. And then they get back, and basically Sigourney Weaver and the company find out that they know the truth, so they're like, we're gonna go there and we're gonna kill them. But the two main characters are like, no, we're going to blow up the radio jammers, because he's like, the guy told me earlier that if these go offline, the nuke down there is gonna blow up. So this is where I feel like it starts turning into like a spy action thriller movie, where they're running away from the kill squad and setting up landmines, and they're like desperately running to like up a hill, because if the nuke goes off, like they have to be far enough that they're not going to get killed. And so it's them running, and then as a little side plot in the movie is that he lied about this long distance shot he took, and so it kind of like resolves that story arc, because he's able to make the shot that's the longest shot he's ever done, blows up the radars, the nuke goes off and fucking obliterates the entire gorge and kills Sigourney Weaver's character. For some reason they fly into the gorge as they're escaping. I'm like, why would you do that? Just fly away from the gorge. But okay. You see Miles Teller's character get blown into a freaking waterfall, but Anya Taylor-Joy's character is far enough that she's fine. But then it just kind of gets to more romancy cliche, where it's like months later and she's working in some random restaurant and he's sitting there, didn't say a word, but he holds up a sign that's like, I like this thing food, and she's like, oh, where have you been? Oh my god. I mean, she's Russian. I feel like she always plays Russian characters, which is funny, because if you notice in the movie, if she talks too fast, she starts speaking just like American English and drops the accent. It's so funny. But yeah, they get together and it ends. So it is like supposed to be like a romance movie, but I just feel like, again, the first like half is the romance part, and then it cuts to like really crazy action, spy thriller, action, and then like last 10 minutes it's like, yes, cringe love romance movie. But overall not bad. I think this premise would have worked really well as a TV show, almost like Wayward Pines and Twin Peaks, kinda, or just like a Twilight Zone, like this very like, what's in the gorge, ooh, like taking your time with it. And I think, if it were a TV show, you could have probably added like a little bit more people on each guard post and had a little bit more stuff to do. But I kept thinking this would have been awesome as a TV show with how the premise is. But yeah, on Letterboxd, I gave it a 4 out of 5. On here, 4 out of 5. Just a fun monster movie, but obviously pales in comparison to something like Annihilation. So I've also realized I've been staring at the wrong camera. But yeah, I guess that's it for my review of the Gorge. Go check it out if you can. If it does come out on like renting on other streaming services and it's cheap, I would say give it a chance and go watch it. But until next time, that is going to be it. I appreciate everyone that watches, likes, shares, comments, even if they're hate comments. But until next time, that is going to be it. I'm out.